This is After Hours, one of the spaces the 25 plus community of our church come together. The 8 p.m. service no longer exists, but our reason for wanting to reach those who are 25 to 35 still remains. Why is it that the best conversations always happen at the end of the night, after that church service ends, or once people have left the party, or in a lounge after the gig? It's in that space and during that time, when the lights are dimmed and the hype dissipates, that you start to relax. We get a bit more honest and real about our lives. We become unfiltered and go below the surface. We'll say what we really think or believe about the issues we're faced with in society. Some say it's during this stage of life that we struggle with identity exploration, instability, self-focus, feeling in between, and as though we're providing a meaningless role to society as we float from one thing to the next. But what if we could be different? What if we could make a difference? We want to get right to the heart of people who find themselves around that 25 to 35 stage of life and establish how we can positively shape the society we live in and impact the people around us as Christians. After Hours is one of the spaces we want to do that. We'll unpack the challenges and the opportunities that come with this age by hearing people's stories from our community, through Bible studies and meditations, and have raw and honest conversations with people from all walks of life. Our hope is to provoke thoughts and cause convictions to rise up in you and inspire you to create conversations of your own, which encourages you to take actions and to positively shape society in your world. Hey guys, welcome to another installment of After Hours. Hope you've all had an amazing week. You're getting your Christmas shopping done. Make sure you don't leave it too late this year, otherwise there'll be nothing left. There might be no toilet paper.
Just continue from there. That's great. We should 100% keep that. Just go from there.
Well, our last show we talked about 2020, what has been, some of our highs, some of our lows, of everything from the 8 p.m, our inception of we didn't even really know each other, and then our journey into now, as you know, After Hours. And so I reckon it'd be cool now, we're nearly at the start of January 2021,
Wow.
Couple weeks out. What is the future looking like? You know, I think for a lot of people, we go, there's just something in our psyche, something in our brain that thinks like a new year, it's all gonna be different. But is it? You know? So I think we got hope, we got a lot of hope we're gonna speak into this, but is it gonna be different, you know? I think it is just gonna be the changing of a clock, and COVID will still be around. My situation will still be probably exactly the same.
Yeah.
Just the only thing will be different is the date on my watch.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you guys feeling going into it?
Oh, I think, like you said, a lot of the things, a lot of the changes that are happening to us individually and culturally are like quite big changes.
Yeah.
So they're not, like you said, the date's not going to change the circumstances and the repercussions of what we've experienced this year. You know, like especially when you look at the economy, like every sphere of life has just been absolutely blindsided.
True, yeah.
And it will take a really long time for that to recover and for resurrection to happen. But we have to acknowledge that something has died, and grieving that appropriately, and knowing that a date changing doesn't actually completely heal something. Do you know what I mean? It's like tomorrow's going to be a brighter day. It's just like, okay, so by midnight, 0000, everything will be bright.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
that's not how it works. Do you know what I mean? So I think, but it's, for me personally, I'm quite like, I wouldn't say pessimistic. Fidela says I'm more realistic, which is good.
Yeah.
But like, I'm kind of like,
Shout out to all the realists.
yeah, shout out to my realists out there. But I think it will be, it's gonna be tough because our expectations will be different to what the reality will be. And I think that tension between what we hope for and what we have and what is present will be no more exaggerated than in the year of promise. That's what I'm going to call it. 2021 is like the year of promise, because everyone's 2020 was like, was left wanting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if there was an emoji to describe 2021, we're probably all trying to press the same one.
Yeah.
What emoji would it be?
Well, you know, The eyes.
He's talking about the doo-doo.
The doo-doo. Yeah, it was.
Fadila, for you,
Do you
what
know
is 2021?
What I've been thinking about, and actually during our last few weeks ago when we were doing our prayer and fasting, 21 days of prayer and fasting, I had this morning, you know when you wake up and there's like this thought that's in your head and it's just like burning at you, like to the point where it's almost waking you up, and I'm like, oh, go away thought. But the thought was, what I lay today builds tomorrow. Yeah. And I was like, what? And then I had this like vision per se of a builder in like his building ground, and he has two choices. He can either build loads of houses and it's going to take a long time, or he can focus on building one house and building it well and choose, you know, the bricks he wants very well and decide like the interior he wants and whatever. And obviously building all these houses will take forever, but building that one house well will take a while, but you can do it well. And I genuinely think that in so many ways we've been that builder, building all these houses, work, mental health, like just trying to do everything. But if I focus on this one house and go, God, am I building this on your foundations? Am I building it? Am I laying the right bricks at the right time in your timing, how you want me to, and the way you're directing me to, if you're like the director of my building? That's what I see 2021 as. It's like what I lay today what I will lay in 2020 in these last few days will build 2021. Yeah. And every day, that's the only thing I can do is go, how am I going into 2021? Am I laying things appropriately? Yeah.
I think on the back of that as well, something to consider is not only what am I going to lay, but what am I going to lay down, and what am I going to put to one side and say, actually, I'm leaving that in 2020. Yeah. And I do think that this kind of, idea of a new year, the dawn of a new season or whatever, is an opportunity for people, because 2020 we've had so much time to think, we've had so much time to reflect, and truly think about like ourselves inwardly and outwardly, about us as a society, how we respond, how we react to things, everything from Black Lives Matter to mental health. I think it's an opportunity to now look at, what do I want to take into 2021, but what do I need to leave aside? What do I need to lay down? What are my thoughts? What are my reactions? What are my responses? And enter into something new. It is. I do think part of it is significant that we step into something, so something new. A new page in the book. So I think that's something to reflect on as well. Is what do I want to lay down? Not only do I want to.
What would be one thing you would lay down? That's a good
question. I think control would be one for me, if I'm honest. I think, especially because like one thing we've all learned this year is that we can't box what happens. Even with COVID, you can try. But like we thought, give it 2 months too. And I remember right at the beginning of the year thinking, like, when there was like hearsay of like, oh, there's something coming here and there's this thing that's going around. I remember us thinking like the first lockdown will be like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And then it was like months later. Yeah. You have to plan ahead and you have to get ahead with your thinking and like your creativity and all this stuff. And like you can't, like you have to like realize, like we planned shoots in that like the day before, we had to be like, we're cancelling that because we can't go ahead because of lockdown. So I think that like control is something definitely that I'll go into 2021, and that's control over so many things, like not only the practical, but I think control is a big one. How about you, Rocky?
Yeah, I put you on the spot. You put me on the spot. One thing that I will leave behind in 2020 is the idea that everyone can be my teacher, that I can't learn from everybody.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, everybody can teach me.
So there's always something to learn from someone
else. Yeah, because sometimes you can project what you think someone knows, because it's simpler as a human to operate that way, to be like, you're in this box, so you can probably teach me this, and this, and this. Cool.
Yeah.
I will listen to you in these spheres, but in these spheres I'm probably like a little bit more knowledgeable.
Is there anything specific that I guess has caused you to have that thinking?
Yeah, I think especially like I spend a lot of time listening to respond, just because in just like general like my day-to-day stuff. So then you're not really listening or you're listening out for particular things,
Yeah.
but you're not listening from a place of vulnerability to learn.
Yeah.
You're listening to how to problem solve.
Yeah.
And I think there's a definite shift in listening to learn and actually being a student. Like, so in the past like month or so, it's just like everyone can be my teacher is what I'm trying to teach myself. So it's leaving behind ego to be like, everyone can be my teacher. So even if I'm trying to help someone in a conversation, it's knowing that this conversation can be helped by me. And because like I unnaturally externally process. So like people will be like, Rocky, what do you think about this? And I'll be like, oh, this, and this, and this. And they'll be like, oh, you know, and I'm like, I said all of that for the first time. So I'm actually teaching myself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but then it's knowing that in that conversation, that person actually taught me. That information wasn't mine that I embodied. That person actually allowed that information to come out of me. Or so it's that ideology that I could have learned in as much as I could have known from certain people.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you see for the future, and what is one thing you're leaving behind?
If I had a crystal ball.
Cool.
Okay, maybe I'll start with the leaving behind. One thing I'm definitely going to leave behind was, I remember the feeling of being probably about 5 weeks into lockdown and thinking, I don't know if I'm really happy with where I'm at in life.
Wow.
I think a lot of people are probably
we're
in that
there.
place.
Yeah.
You're not by yourself.
I'm like, maybe?
I said it and I was like,
Guys?
actually, I was really happy
I was so content.
No, so I remember being, I really remember being there, thinking, and I even went home to my wife and I was like, I don't know if this is the life I want.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, well, it wasn't really funny at the time, but I'd never been in that place before, so it was new. But I'd realised how much I'd, unbeknownst to myself, really allowed what I did to be shaped by not just work, but I suppose the conditions, the freedoms, all those things that we had with life, which were generally all to do with people. It's the thing that fuels me the most. It's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning. I just love it. Love being with people, love helping people. And then all of a sudden it's like, stay there, stay away from people, and we just need to figure this out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if if I want to sign up for this anymore, you know? And so I'm going to leave behind in 2020 would be the identity that I had wrapped up in that convoluted mess of not just work, but just probably
life was.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what I see for the future, I'm still very much trying to figure that out. I wish there was I had a really definitive, clear thing, but I think once again, probably so many of us, what we value has been highlighted, and what we don't value, I think we're pretty happy to just leave behind. I think we've probably been dragging a few things, a few relationships or people with us along the way. I was really amazed actually at once lockdown started to take place, I realized there was probably people I had in my world who in reality probably didn't really care that much about me. And so I had to, you got to let go of that, you know, you can't carry that around. So that was a process. So I think the things that I value most, and it sounds probably super corny, but it is the things that I value most. I'm going to continue to place more value on those things. First and foremost is my relationship with God. I realized that I probably wasn't as intimate as what I needed to be with God, and that's a daily thing. And I think it was something when you said before about what we're going to leave behind is that I think probably unless we've really grasped this thing of actually that God's mercy is new every day, then we can go into the next year, and that actually won't change unless you've got the revelation that today, actually, by the time I wake up tomorrow, God has renewed that there is a renewed opportunity to go again. And so you can come to the 1st of January 2021, and unless you understand that, of that everything, that He is your strength, He is your comforter, He is your provider, He is absolutely everything that you need him to be. He is that, and that you have an opportunity. You've drawn a line in the sand as far as God's concerned, and you cross that and go, today's a new day. 2021 will be exactly the same otherwise. That's in my opinion anyway.
No, but it's like you said, these times and these date changes are opportunities they can be symbolic.
Yes.
Do you mean like the changing the dates? You can bring meaning to that with intentionality, but without intentionality, it will just be another date change.
Which is a heart thing.
Yeah, which is the heart thing. You have to have a heart revelation that will spur, the date can be a symbol of a heart revelation.
Yeah, that's good,
it's like a marriage. Like a marriage shouldn't be, the marriage day should be synonymous of a long-standing relationship, right? So it's like when people are like, I want to get married because of the ceremony, it's like, the ceremony is not going to sustain you.
It's true, yeah.
The ceremony is a celebration of a relationship and a symbol of an ongoing declaration of love.
Yeah.
And like 2021 can be the symbol of a new beginning for you.
Yeah.
If you put the agency behind the heart change behind it. I think that's so powerful. Because you see like, new year, new me. I'm like, listen, and I genuinely love going through Instagram seeing that, because I'm just like, this is great content. This is premium content. Like on the 31st, I'm just there like, come on, tell me how it's all going to be different. But it's like, it can be. It doesn't have to, like, it can be so different. You can learn the lessons of 2020 and have that change the rest of your life. If you put the frame, if you remember. And it's like so funny how the Bible just constantly is like, new every morning. It's like, that's not for God's sake.
Like, exactly,
God
He's
knows.
Not reminding himself.
God's not
right.
I have to remind myself to love people. Like, this whole reminding God that he loves us is such a weird concept. Like, we don't need to pray to remind God to take care of you. God wants to take care of you more than you want to take care of you. God loves you more than you love you. So it's like, actually, everything is a repositioning of our hearts to remind ourselves of your mercies. He's like screaming at us. Like, it's new again! And we have to be like, So it's like, it's a massive opportunity, 2020.
And I think as well within that, like, reminding ourselves is so important. Not only that his mercies are new, but his, like, great is his faithfulness. Because I think we forget as well that actually, there's no guarantee that 2021 is going to be any different. Like, we could go back into another lockdown in January. We could face worse than we've seen this year. We don't know, there's no guarantee. But I think one of the things we can take hope on is actually, God, you got me here, you got me this far, you got me to this day, you got me through this season. We're here, you know, where we might be a little bit, you know, scathed, or we might be a little bit hurt, but we got here, and he's managed to teach us something. And I think one of the things I'm loving at the moment is even having the conversation with people of, 2020 was a tough year, but it wasn't all bad. Like, there were some amazing things that God did in this year, maybe internally, maybe externally, but remembering his faithfulness throughout, and remembering the things he did throughout, and taking that in with us, because we can set a precedent for, actually, I want 2021 to be this, or I'm declaring 2021 to be this. But even if it doesn't, even if like day one comes and you've messed up on that, or you're like, screwed it all up, or, you know, I made that mistake, or I did exactly what I said I wasn't going to do. Like, for me, it's like, you know, I went into that controlling situations. His mercies are new every day, and he is faithful. So it's like, I can go into the next day, and I can go into the next minute, the next hour. It's about taking that next step. It's not necessarily about needing to, well, there's always 2022. Like, it's like,
And what you're saying, Fadil, in terms of building, and it's so important in terms of like, where, if you're focused on building the house where it's supposed to be built, irrespective of the circumstance and environment, like, you're not trying to build in the sunny location because it's sunny, because building on weather is not where you should build a house. Do you mean, like, you shouldn't build your house on the weather? You shouldn't build your house where it looks cool. You shouldn't build your house where it's trendy. Like, especially a spiritual house. We're talking like a metaphorical house. Obviously, build a house where it's trendy, because then housing prices will go up and you'll recoup your investment. But in terms of spiritual house, side note. But in terms of like a spiritual house, you're not supposed to build where it's cool.
Do you mean
it's
like
about
a foundation?
Yeah, where you're building in Christ. Christ shouldn't be cool.
What do
you, all that kind of thing.
On the back of that, because that's a really great thought, what do you think then are some of the things that, I guess, we, or, you know, people need to be intentional with building, or what do you think that we actually do need to go into 2021 with actually I'm gonna set out to do this, or I'm gonna set out to take this, to lay this as a foundation?
Yeah.
What are those things?
That's a good question.
I think our awakening to things has not been bad, because actually it then goes, okay, remember, we cannot take that into 2021.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
100%.
no, I refuse to take racism into 2021.
Yeah, it's good.
I refuse to take like injustice into 2021. I refuse to take ignorance, or like ignorance even in like my, I don't know, my spiritual growth, but also like in, as a church leader, you can be sometimes ignorant to like what's going on as well. And like, I'm not taking that into 2021. So in so many ways, like,
you need to build in that awakening.
we need to build in that by going, those bricks are rubbish. Chuck them out.
Discernment,
These
isn't
are,
it?
Yeah, and I think that's an authority to do that as well, of knowing I have authority in Christ to be able to do this
Like,
and speak up for those things. And I think one of the best things I think that's coming from this year is not only the awakening, but the church is awakening and saying, actually, we take ownership of what we've contributed to that's wrong, and saying, actually, this is how we're going to go forward. And we have authority to be able to say, no, we're going to stamp this out. We're not going to accept that, and call that out. Even, I think, definitely that's one of the things that we can be intentional with taking.
And there's grace for 2021. Like, there's grace for people. There's grace for forgiveness. There's grace for people that have made mistakes in 2020. That it doesn't need to go into 2021. We need to stop. We need to stop having this, like, I don't know, like, sometimes I feel like it's our idol nature that we like cancel people so quickly, is because we actually idolize people so quickly. So we put them on a pedestal, and then the minute they let me down, oh, you're cancelled. And it's like, no, we actually have like an idol issue, and I don't want to take that into 2021, because I know if I idolize you, you will let me down, because you're a human, you're not Jesus Christ.
And I think that's a great thing as well, is that we've kind of embraced the willingness to learn and say, like, I'm open to learning and open to being corrected and open to being fed back to,
and unlearning,
and unlearning as well, 100%. And even I think in so many things, you know, I'm just loving the things that you've seen on Instagram throughout the year, which have been like meanings behind words, and that can be to do with so many different things. And actually having a place where it's like, you can have a conversation with someone and be like, oh, it's just that's not how we say it. And then you're like, great, there's no like, oh, and you move back. I think it's just, it has opened up so much within us to be teachable, 100% in many aspects.
I think like one thing I heard today, which I think is really cool in terms of something I'm going to take into 2021 and something I can build on, is how I processed it was like, private discipline will result in public habit. So it's just like how I build. And I'm not to make it super individualistic, because I think that can be extended to our community. How do we build internally, or then become a public habit? But habit, the thought of a habit makes me think of something that happens by default. But I know privately that wouldn't happen by default. That's why private discipline, because privately I am disciplined to create a very rigid framework for me to thrive in, so that I'm doing it subconsciously when I'm in public. Do you mean? But I think the problem is with 2020 is we were doing a lot of things in public for the first time, and I'm not deeping why we were doing it and not doing it privately. Then we're thrown into our houses where we're face to face with what we're doing privately, and all of us saw mess. And we're like, my private life is a mess. Do you know what I mean? Because we were distracted by the rest of our lives. We had all the trimmings of a really good meal, but then we opened up the turkey and it was empty. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the reality of all of our lives. In whatever respect, I'm not saying that people saw like loads of zombies in closets, but like everybody had that kind of self-awakening of like, I haven't cleaned my room for a long time. And it's just like the discipline of cleaning our rooms, we need to keep that going forward, even when we stop living in our rooms. Do you know what I mean? Because in 2021 or 2022 or 2025 we'll stop living in our rooms again, and my four walls of my private life will not be my, inverted commas, my stronghold. But the importance that we found in having a really clear framework of the vision that I want to be projected outside, that's something I'm going to take into 2021. It's just like, actually clean my room, and constantly clean my room even if I'm not living there. Because who knows who knows the next time I'm going to have to live there, and if I want to invite people there, like to my spiritual room, this internal temple that I'm called to have, like what do I want that to look like? Because I need to praise there all the time, and I think this year we've had to pray in our internal temples and they've been left in ruins. So it's like, how do I spiritually build the temple inside me so that the next time I visit, I'm not a stranger in my own temple?
Lols.
We shouldn't be strangers in our own temples.
Matt, how do you think that looks like maybe for the church? Because as you talked about, I think people have been confronted with self, even within their faith, of they haven't had the four walls to be able to help them, or not help them, but like, it's not like you go to an event, you pick me up and then you leave. It's been this internal thing of you're confronted with self. So do you think that'll have a greater impact on the way that maybe church goes into the new year and the way that we do things, in that sense, corporately?
I think a lot of people's kind of mind just goes into what will the church look like? Will we gather in big numbers again and all the rest of it? I really think, and this is just, I suppose, just in my own just quiet time with God, I felt a real challenge in, and this is where I talked before about my need for intimacy with God, because I felt a real challenge and conviction of how do I share the good things God is doing in my life, or the things God's done in my life, and not relying on when my friend comes, or when someone comes into the church building for the first time, they meet really nice people and they go, oh, this is nice. Then they walk in, and then they walk in like, wow, look, there's lights. Wow, look at all these people. And so they're starting to become wowed, and they don't know what Jesus looks like. They don't haven't experienced Jesus yet, but this is all now adding to the stimuli of the encounter with God. And so we know, like, we are part of an amazing church who literally see thousands of decisions to follow Christ every single year. So we cannot take any of that for granted. We've got an incredible church. You take that away though, and now I've got to realize how I can tell my friend about Jesus in the context of my life, or in the context of your life, or in the context of just life in general. So probably like my hope and prayer for the church would be that every single person who says, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Christ, would have a boldness and a confidence to speak of the Jesus who they profess to follow. And that we would then see people added to the church, meaning people also deciding to follow Christ and being added to the church that way. Otherwise, I think if we're all hanging about waiting for that time where we can all gather again before I'm gonna send that invitation or tell someone about Jesus, or hope that I'll invite someone along, then someone else will tell them about Jesus, and I think my job is done. That's been a thing for me, because I've never considered myself an evangelist, but I think there needs to be that thing for me, is like, there is so much to be grateful for, and God is alive, He's active, He's moving in my life, and therefore why shouldn't I speak about that? Why shouldn't I boast about the good things that He is doing? If
the Christ that was floating above the water in Genesis predated any scripture, predated any church building, predated any tradition. Like that's pre-religion. Like it's pre-religion. Like creation. Like God's breathing everything into existence is pre all of the establishments that we've created to honor, or to reflect, or to represent. It's that challenge of like, if every Bible in the world disappeared tomorrow, could we still tell the Jesus story? If every church building was dismantled, could you still tell? Because people did for hundreds of years at the beginning. We know it's living and it's active, but it is this word that we now are building our foundation on, and it's maybe an angel hasn't appeared to us, but does it fill us with the same in reverence?
And I think what I love about what you were saying, Rocky, about like being a light, and not, I think for us, the encouragement I take from it as well is like, we don't have to be that light alone. Like, we can be that light together. And I think the more you add wood to a flame, or a fire, it grows. And I think it's the thing of, I think of space and the earth, and you see those major cities because they're illuminated, and for us, the way that we're going to illuminate Jesus is by doing it together, and we're strengthened when we do it together, and that you can share your testimony, and then I can add to my testimony, and that means that somebody else is like, oh, and before you know, we're all sharing about this light that we know, and it's contagious. It can, like, fire catches fire. And so I think I'm encouraged by that, of actually the unity that we can have as the church, and the potential of the church that has been taken by as well these four walls, the buildings, and just being the people of the church, and being able to take that forward and say, actually, we are one body, we are unified in Christ, and being able to take that forward and make his name known.
Yeah. Well, to, I suppose, kind of wrap it up, what would be something, just whether it be a sentence of encouragement that we can tell our 25 plus community to take into 2021?
I can't wait to walk through the valley, through the joy, through the unknown with God. I can't wait to do it with him.
It's good.
If it had to be a thought, mine would be, he is who he says he is. And I think just looking at this year and my experience throughout my life of who God is, he's always come through. He's always shown himself to be true, both in character and both in, I think, just the way he comes through. Like, he is who he says he is. And I think being able to take hope in that, being able to be encouraged by that, and comfort in that going into the new year, I can trust him fully. I can lean on him. He is my ever-present help when I'm in need. And that's enough for me, I think, and that's encouraging to me.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, how about you, Reverend Rocky?
Rev. Probably nothing can separate us from the love of God. I just think that's like the wildest statement in the universe. No year can separate us from the love of God.
Yeah.
So like the hope is that, like, if you think that God has moved his hand off your life, you're wrong. Because nothing can separate you from the love of God. So like, just rest in the moment you're in, because tomorrow will be brighter by default.
How about you, Matt?
I know you guys are just sharing. I think we just need to finish right there. I'm like getting my notepad out and taking notes from that, guys. That was incredible. Yeah, for me, after all that gold and all that wisdom that you guys have shared, my encouragement would be to continue to lean into Christ. And I know me personally, I've really felt, I know I've needed to get into his word more. I've gone from less relying on maybe the voice of man and definitely more relying on the voice of God. But I'm definitely full of hope and expectation with a hint of reality in there from you. Yeah, just like that. But 2021, I think it is going to be what we make of it as well. You know, there's a lot out of our control, but there's also a lot in our control. And I'm just glad that we're going to get to run into it together with good people. I think makes all the difference. And excited to see what the space can become. Yeah. So I think if we had like some old wine or something, this way it'd be like
25 plus! 25 plus! That's Rose!
And I think that's the way I see the world, is that I can only try my best up until the point where God needs to do the rest.
Yeah, Matt, I was teaching you earlier what a thirst trapper is.
He loved it.
He's
Probably his favourite wine.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I did.
that was really short.
I know you,
And that is not who you
and
are.
I know you don't do this.
Yeah.
Because you've been in your house for 5 months.
Do you mean?
Eating cracker. You're not eating like a marshmallow or sucking a sweet. What does that mean, a cracker?
It's a cracker.
It's a cracker. Don't press start until I get down to...
You said quacker.
Mate, I think it's...
They're rolling.
We are, but that's what we're trying to say.
Looking for Dealer Joe.
Because I think Matthew as an answer, you know what I mean? Pray into the opportunities I can't with you. I can't.
That chair is something special.
He's like, go. This week, we're going to dig deeper into the opportunities we have as a... No, that's him now. That has nothing to do with me.
Hey.
Hey, welcome. Can't even say hey. Positively shape. Not coming in too hot. It'd be great to catch up for a coffee this week too. Okay, here we go. Diddly-dee potato. Well, that is all we've got for the week. Here's an idea. Make sure glory. Maybe we should grab a coffee sometime. I don't know, but other way. Oh, you're so close. Could you just do a blunt cut and then we just like go take 2? But it almost doesn't matter because we've gone the... No. Okay. Well, I hope you got plenty of... What was this?
Don't say wow.
Let's see you next week kind of deal, eh? Well, for the 77th take, well, I hope you